Didn't expect you to stop.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're here for yet another fantastic senior project presentation. It's my honor today to present Sayvon. She's been here since 7th grade. And since I've known her, she has always had a deep passion for pop culture and crime shows. And so periodically, throughout her career at VNS, she's done crime or mystery or treasure hunting related projects that somehow led her to the project we're going to hear about today on crime and criminal justice. So I hope that you enjoy all the content and wisdom she has to share.
When choosing my senior topic, I created a lot of turmoil for myself. I always knew deep down that learning about crime was something I wanted to do for this project, but I didn't make a decision for an alarming amount of time. Growing up, I've always enjoyed consuming and learning about different criminal cases and screaming at the TV when a murderer leaves something behind. This personal fascination became an interest in understanding the real-world systems and definitions behind the cases I found so intriguing. I started small with a couple projects related to unrelated topics in my time at VNS. I also took a semester-long e-school course that centered on criminal psychology. All of this research led to the foundational question for this project. What exactly is crime and why does it happen? Today, we'll look at the answers to this question by examining information about types of crimes, profiling and behavioral theories, victimology, crime and society, and the criminal justice system, as well as a few activities spaced out in the middle. Parts of my presentation will involve listening and parts will be interactive, so get ready. Okay, let's start with some definitions. Crime is a deliberate act which is explicitly stated to have been prohibited, unlawful, and punished by criminal law. The terms crime and deviance are often used interchangeably, but they are different concepts. Crime breaks the law, while deviance refers to violations of social norms. Both are legally defined and vary by jurisdiction and culture. Crime definitions and classifications are influenced by politics, economics, and social change. In our system, there are three main elements to every crime. First is the action or behavior, or actus reus. Second is the person's psychological state in the moment, or the intent, which is known as mens rea. The third is concurrence, or the relationship between the action and the harm caused. These components form the backbone of how we legally define and prosecute crime. All criminal offenses are technically considered statutory crimes, meaning they are prohibited by statute. Statutory crimes are then further divided into felonies and misdemeanors. A felony is a crime that has a sentence of either more than a year in prison or the death penalty. A misdemeanor is less serious than a felony and has a maximum of 6 months in jail. Within these categories, crimes are further categorized based on their nature and impact. Crimes against a person result in physical or mental harm to another individual and often have the harshest penalties. These crimes involve threat of force and are considered serious due to the harm inflicted on others. Can everyone with a yellow or a brown sticker stand up? There are more than that. Yellow or brown? Oh, yeah, and there's a lot on the table, so include those. These colors represent aggravated assaults and murders. Violent crimes or crimes against a person include kidnapping, robbery, manslaughter, child abuse, murder, sexual assault, domestic abuse, and assault and battery. When the physical crime to another is severe enough to cause death, the individual may be charged with first-degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, or vehicular homicide. The Adult Prosecution Division is in charge of prosecuting adult felonies against individuals. The Juvenile Division, or the Gang Unit, takes over if the victim is a child or a gang member. Okay, you guys can sit down now. While violent crimes affect individuals directly, other crimes involve deception or illegal financial gain. White-collar and financial crimes are actions taken to make it possible for a person or organization to illegally get financial assets. They are nonviolent and financially motivated crimes and are often performed by financially secure people within their field of work. White-collar criminals commit crimes either for their advantage or the profit of the company. These crimes are harder to detect and typically involve deception and abuse of trust. They get their name from corporate officers who historically perpetrated the industry. White-collar crimes include election law violations, various types of fraud, forgery, money laundering, and tax evasion. Sometimes, individual financial motivations become the work of a company, family, or group, organized systematically to provide illegal goods and services. You may have heard this called organized crime. In a criminal organization, senior partners oversee the profits, employees oversee and run the company, and customers purchase products and services from the company. Organized crimes often cross the border and involve corruption or violence to maintain control. In studies of organized crime, the sociological idea states that criminal organizations are likely to be law firms and have corporate structures. Organized crimes include money laundering, various drug crimes, illegal gambling, human trafficking, and arms smuggling. Okay, can everyone with a green sticker please stand up? Mint and green are separate, by the way. Okay. With the rise of, this color represents identity theft. With the rise of technology, a new category of crime has been introduced. That exists mainly in the digital world. The general definition of cybercrime is an individual using a computer to carry out illegal activities. Cybercrimes include internet and email fraud, identity theft, possession of child pornography, privacy violations such as cyberstalking, hacking, and ransomware attacks. Cybercrimes are becoming more common as digital technology continues to grow. You can sit down now. Can everyone with a purple and orange sticker please stand up? Okay, she's orange. These colors represent robberies and arson. Outside of the digital world, offenses involving property remain a concern. Property crimes are crimes against possession or property. Crimes against property might include physical or mental harm to another, but mainly result in the abuse of another individual's property. They can be violent or nonviolent and are often motivated by economic need or opportunity. Crimes against property include theft, auto theft, destruction of property, shoplifting, grand theft, arson, larceny, burglary, and robbery. Penalties vary based on the type of offense, the value of property, and the criminal history of the offender. Oh, you guys already sat, okay. Some crimes do not cause tangible harm, but rather focus on moral or cultural violations. Crimes against morality offend societal norms or values. They are also known as victimless crimes, but do not harm a particular person or a piece of property. Crimes against morality include illegal gambling, bigamy, indecent exposure, prostitution, and illegal drug use. The legal treatment for these crimes varies widely across cultures and time. Crimes committed in public spaces also carry distinct social implications. Okay. Can everyone with a red, pink, mint, or blue sticker stand up? Okay, these colors represent auto theft. Street crimes are crimes specifically against people or property in public areas. These crimes immediately affect the community and typically occur in public spaces that are associated with urban environments. Street crimes are often more visible and heavily policed. These crimes include auto theft, stealing, assault, robbery, rape, graffiti, vandalism, and drug dealing. You can sit down now. It's important to note that statutory crimes are specifically prohibited by statute because society desires to deter people from engaging in those crimes. As society's desires change, statutes may be changed. Currently, these crimes include public intoxication, traffic offenses, selling alcohol to minors, drug possession, manufacturing, and trafficking. As public opinion on the legality of medical marijuana progresses, for instance, it's an area of criminal law that's being re-examined. Traffic laws have also been re-examined over time. As automobile technology, roadway design, and safety concerns have advanced, what constitutes a traffic offense has changed. These crimes occur on public roadways and may range from minor violations to serious charges. When a traffic offense results in death, it may be classified as a more serious crime. DUI, OWI, and DWI offenses involve both alcohol and a vehicle. They are considered both an alcohol and a traffic-related crime. Additional traffic offenses include driving on a suspended or revoked license, driving without a license, hit and runs, reckless driving, and vehicular assault. In addition to the common crime categories that I have just mentioned, many other crimes have serious consequences. Inchoate crimes are crimes that start but are not finished. These include conspiracy, aiding and abetting, and attempts. To commit an inchoate crime, the individual must take a considerable step towards completing the crime. They can be punished the same as the intended underlying crime, but sometimes the punishment might be less severe. These crimes are small but punishable. A few other clearly defined crimes include perjury, environmental crimes, political crimes, and hate crimes. Perjury is giving false testimony under oath in court or during official proceedings. Environmental crimes harm ecosystems and include acts like illegal dumping and poaching. Political crimes target the state, such as treason or espionage. Lastly, hate crimes are motivated by prejudice against a certain group. When you stood up, you represented the number of crimes in Wisconsin in a day. I rounded up the totals to the nearest whole number. As you might have noticed, there were no people with a brown sticker. Brown was for murders. Annually, there are about 125 murders in Wisconsin, which makes a daily total about 0.34, which rounds down to 0. Purple applied to robberies, which, when rounded up, totals to 2 a day. Yellow applied to aggravated assaults, which totaled to 10. Green applied to identity thefts and was easily roundable down to 12. Orange applied to arsons and totaled to 1. And last but not least, red, pink, mint, and blue applied to motor vehicle thefts with the largest sum in this chart at 43.7, which was rounded up to 44. Crime is an evolving and complex issue that shapes societies worldwide. Many factors contribute to criminal behavior, making crime an ever-present challenge in the modern world, even here in Wisconsin. Now that we've looked at what we define as crime, let's explore why they happen, more specifically, the individual characteristics and behaviors and broader societal influences that drive offenders. Genetic predispositions do not cause crime, but many increase the likelihood of criminal behavior. Studies that show higher rates of criminal behavior in identical twins compared to fraternal twins suggest a genetic component to criminality. Similarly, adopted children with biological parents who have criminal histories are more likely to engage in similar behaviors. Inherited traits such as impulsivity, aggression, or lack of empathy are commonly associated with criminal tendencies. Neurotransmitters in the brain are another explanation for criminal behavior. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter and is involved in mood regulation and impulse control. Low serotonin levels are commonly associated with aggressive and impulsive behaviors. People with low serotonin levels may be more prone to acting out in violence or engaging in criminal acts due to difficulties in regulating emotional responses. Dopamine is another neurotransmitter and is linked to the brain's reward system. Imbalances in dopamine levels can affect behavior by making individuals more driven by pleasure-seeking and risk-taking. Elevated dopamine levels can contribute to addictive behaviors, which may result in crimes committed to obtain substances or harmful activities like theft or fraud. The MAOA gene, which stands for monoamine oxidase A, regulates the brain's neurotransmitters. A deficiency or mutation in this gene has been linked to increased aggression and violent tendencies. Individuals with a specific variant of the MAOA gene may be more prone to violent behavior, particularly if they were exposed to childhood abuse. The MAOA gene, when combined with environmental stressors, may increase the likelihood of engaging in criminal acts. The frontal lobe, responsible for decision-making, impulse control, and social behavior, also plays a crucial role in regulating criminal behavior. Damage to the frontal lobe can impair an individual's ability to plan, control impulses, and understand the consequences of their actions. Criminals with frontal lobe damage often demonstrate impulsivity and aggression, acting without considering the potential harm to others. This neurological dysfunction is frequently found in people who commit violent crimes. People who have survived a head injury, particularly to the frontal or temporal lobes, have a higher likelihood of engaging in antisocial behavior. Brain trauma can result in personality changes, loss of impulse control, and reduced empathy, all of which are factors contributing to criminal tendencies. The amygdala plays a critical role in processing emotions like fear and aggression. Dysfunction in the amygdala has been linked to a lack of emotional responses, such as fear or guilt, which are typically protective against criminal behavior. When the amygdala is damaged, people might engage in risky or violent behavior due to a lack of fear or remorse. While some individuals may have a genetic or neurological predisposition towards criminal behavior, this does not mean that they are destined to commit crimes. Labeling someone as genetically prone to crime can lead to stigmatization. Although biological factors help explain individual predispositions of crime, they do not act in isolation. Social and environmental influences also play a critical role in shaping criminal behavior. Crime is more prevalent in lower socioeconomic communities where there is limited access to education, employment, and social services. The gap between the rich and poor creates frustration and leads individuals to commit crimes as means of survival or status. Social structures such as economic inequality, social norms, and cultural values significantly influence criminal behavior. This is demonstrated in conflict theory, which states that deviant behavior arises from injustice and social imbalance. Areas with weak social institutions, such as family, education, law enforcement often have higher rates of criminal behavior. Subcultures may normalize or even promote deviance, viewing crime as acceptable or necessary for survival. In some communities, young people might form peer groups that encourage criminal behavior as a form of belonging or identity. Peer pressure and gang affiliation often push individuals into crime. Gangs or delinquent groups might adopt values that prioritize crime as a means of gaining status or respect. Without positive role models and parental supervision, youth may adopt deviant behavior within these groups. Examining environmental factors that influence deviant behavior helps profilers understand the external factors shaping offenders' actions. Many of these societal factors are rooted in instability. Dysfunctional families, those with abusive, neglectful, or absent parents, contribute to higher crime rates, especially among juveniles. High unemployment rates are also closely related to increased levels of criminal activity. Lack of legitimate work opportunities can lead to individuals committing crimes for financial survival. Unemployment not only affects financial stability, but also damages self-worth and limits social mobility, which can result in a deeper involvement in crime. Rapid urbanization and city overcrowding often reduce community involvement and in turn increase crime rates. Disorganized neighborhoods, specifically in urban settings, tend to face higher levels of criminal activity due to weak community ties and lack of cohesion. The absence of effective policing and social programs in overcrowded communities further promotes social disorganization. Stigmatization also plays a role, as it can strain reintegration into society and push individuals further into crime subculture. Social strain typology, a unique type of criminal influence, occurs when a person is committed to achieving a societal goal but uses deviant behavior to reach it. Alternatively, deviant behavior can sometimes disrupt society in a way that fosters cohesiveness, which eventually contributes to social stability. In addition to social structures and economic conditions, the psychological makeup of an individual, including their personality traits and mental health, can significantly influence their likelihood to commit crimes. A psychological understanding of crime is essential for criminal profiling. Criminal profiling systemically analyzes behavioral and psychological characteristics. This helps law enforcement and mental health professionals identify potential offenders and understand their motivations for engaging in unlawful behavior. One of the main tasks of a criminal psychologist is to develop profiles of criminals in order to help craft strategies for apprehension. Criminal psychologists are sometimes called in as expert witnesses. They perform psychological assessments on the people who engage in illegal acts. They also learn to understand mental health issues and potential mental disorders that the offenders are most likely to have. The psychoanalytic theory pioneered by Sigmund Freud has had a drastic impact on criminal profiling due to its focus on the unconscious mind and the dynamics of personality. Freudian concepts in criminal profiling, ID, ego, and superego, help professionals understand unconscious motivations, unresolved conflicts, and repressed desires, which provide a deeper comprehension of the actions of offenders. Early intervention in mental health issues and personality disorders can prevent engagement in crime. Providing psychological support, therapy, treatment to individuals at risk, and restorative justice approaches all emphasize rehabilitation over punishment, which can help offenders reintegrate into society more effectively and significantly reduce the likelihood of reoffending. While our society and media place a great deal of focus on offenders, it's equally important to understand the experiences of those affected by crime. Victimology is the study of the psychological effects of crime on victims, their roles within the criminal justice system, and their relationships with the offenders. It looks at patterns of victimization, the causes and types of offenses, and how society and law enforcement respond to victims, and how victims' rights have developed. As a field with many disciplines, victimology blends criminology, sociology, psychology, and law to fully understand the experiences and needs of victims. Drawing from these fields, victimology also explores whether the victim and offender were strangers, acquaintances, or intimates, providing deeper insight into criminal behavior and prevention. To understand the development of victimology, it's important to look at its historical roots. Victimology originated as a distinct field in the mid-20th century, specifically in the 1940s and 50s. It first emerged when criminologists started to study the relationship between a victim and an offender. The field originally focused on the degree of responsibility that might be attributed to victims. Earlier criminologists raised the possibility that victims might have some level of responsibility for the misfortune or the crime committed against them. Reckless behavior of intoxicating customers would, for example, attract the attention of robbers, or the instigation of brawlers escalates to the point of injury or death. By the 70s, following the start of the civil rights movement, the focus changed to prevent victimization. They sought to shift how the justice system handled complaints and serious issues. Today, victimology rejects earlier notions of victim blame and focuses on supporting and empowering those impacted by crime. Victims of crimes can suffer physical, emotional, psychological, and financial harm. In the long term, they may experience distrust of others, difficulty with relationships, and reoccurring trauma. An important task of victimology is identifying and measuring the frequency of different victimizations. Research by victimologists and criminologists has focused on explaining why violent victimization varies from group to group. Factors such as age, gender, race, socioeconomic status, and location all influence victimization. Young people, minorities, and individuals in low-income or urban locations are statistically more likely to become victims of certain crimes. Lifestyle and routine activities can also affect the risk, which is explained by the routine activity theory. The routine activity theory is a criminological theory that explains crime patterns by focusing on when and where criminal opportunities arise. In response to these challenges, advocates have worked to ensure that victims receive better support and recognition. Victims' needs are now being addressed because the victims' rights movement has empowered individuals within the criminal justice system. Support services for victims include counseling, legal aid, compensation funds, shelters, and crisis intervention. Internationally, many countries have adopted laws to ensure victim protection and participation in the justice process. Recently, there's been a growing emphasis on restorative justice, which focuses on healing and reconciliation between a victim and an offender. Restorative justice says that the offender should accept responsibility for their actions and make efforts to repair and assist with emotional or physical damages to the victim. So now that we have learned about types of crimes and their statistics, profiling criminal behaviors, and victimology, I have created a more lighthearted activity to pair with it. You all get to be detectives, applying your new knowledge to a crime scene case. 3 different murders have taken place here at VNS. One takes place in the library, one in the kitchen, and one in the makerspace. When I'm done giving directions, you can choose one and stay in that room through the whole investigation time. You will get a worksheet coordinating with the scene you choose to investigate. If the worksheets run out, you can pair up with someone investigated the same crime as you. Fill out the worksheet front and back so we can come back together to discuss and discover what really happened. In each crime scene room, victim files and suspect files are all on the wall for you to examine and to use to complete the worksheet, as well as the evidence around the room that you can see. There are evidence markers next to each important piece of evidence so you aren't looking for things that aren't there. Also, don't touch anything because you might contaminate it. So some of your friends have been affected by these crimes, so if you want to visit them, here's who's in each crime. So would everyone who wants to investigate the kitchen crime scene follow which advisor? I have 3. Okay, everyone who wants to investigate the kitchen, follow Miss Fornes. Everyone who wants to...
Are those?
Everyone who wants to investigate the library, follow Miss Lukey. And everyone who wants to investigate the makerspace, follow Miss K. Bring something to write with. You have 10 minutes.
We get to go this way.
Is anyone in the live stream?
10 minutes, 10
I
minutes.
think so.
Okay.
I'm just bringing it to the makerspace so at least they can see what's going on. This is... this is gonna be fun to figure out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, a crime has been committed. Oh my gosh, be careful, don't touch any of the evidence.
You might want to.
Yeah.
I think we're just ducking.
Just ducking, go ahead, go ahead. Oh, here's your sheets. Oh, that's 2. Can you give one to a friend, sir? Sorry. And then come out so other detectives can get in? Yes. So take a look around. And then come on out here to think about your answers. Uh-oh, wait, he did it.
Yeah, you definitely did.
You look like suspicious. You sure you want a sheet? Have your own look at it.
Emily's washed lying on the floor, far from her body, and a bottle of industrial cleaning solution has been knocked over nearby. The scene raises more questions than answers. Was this a tragic accident or carefully orchestrated murder? All right, go find some evidence.
Yeah, they got this one.
Do we know who the suspects are? Oh, those are the suspects? Or victims?
Selling my own case.
Emily's, and did you know you're gonna get married?
Yeah, that's like.
Can I sit down?
Oh, wow.
I was supposed to be the murderer, but then she made me the victim instead.
I know.
Miss Emily. Miss? Well, I'm not married. That's where people with their kids.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have 2 kids. Oh, no. me and Miss Yusuf, computer stuff or something.
Oh, so
No paparazzi.
guys,
I must have school library. I feel like it might have been
Probably not.
oh my God.
You just.
I did it, but you stepped in my way, so I had to.
I will. Here, just kidding. Alright. Hold on, we need.
Is there any more evidence?
Okay, I don't know. Pile of red.
Oh, what about the pile of red sawdust?
Yeah, how about the pile of red?
I just keep editing me. Hello, I'm a dead body.
Okay, are you all back now? Is there anybody else that's missing? Okay. Now that you've investigated your crime scene, we will cover each one and find out who did it and who you found suspicious. If you investigated the kitchen, raise your hand. Okay. Who do you think killed Miss Emily?
Cameron.
Okay. Why? You can't just say Cameron. Why?
Because it's Cameron.
That's it? Oh, he's not here? I didn't even know that.
He's in jail.
Okay, Cameron just because, I guess. If you investigated the library, raise your hand. Who do you think killed Miss Rachel? Jesse? Do you have any theories? What's your theory, Kira?
Okay, so I think that she was set up, or not set up, but I think she killed her probably because she had all the information about her family or whatever, and her fingerprints were on the USB.
That's fair. That makes a lot of sense,
And
actually.
the book was all over the floor, and she's what got to her.
Oh, because the book was checked out to her. Okay, we will see. That's a good theory. Lastly, if you investigated the makerspace, raise your hand. Okay. Who do we think killed Mr. Nathan? Okay, if that's all three suspects. You guys need to like... Okay, you said Sawyer. Why do you think it's Sawyer?
Because there was a skag on my class.
Oh, okay.
And then he embarrassed me in front of my fellow peers.
Okay.
And he also took my project away. That was not enough.
Milo?
It was Lillian. Because there was an email that was sent off of his computer to her rejecting her for the internship after his death. Oh. Dun, gasp.
I also heard of Vincent from somewhere out there.
Well, I think it was Sawyer because
Okay.
I think Sawyer and Nathan were star-crossed lovers.
Must have been. That's fair. Okay.
Because he was like doing stuff with the sun.
Yeah.
That's all I know. But I just think it was sort of Lillian, so that's
Okay. Good job. So it is time to reveal what really happened.
Aiden has one more.
Oh, Aiden? Okay, or not. I'm gonna read like the motive and like what really happened for each one. So, in the kitchen, drum roll please. Miss Emily was killed by Sage. They used Malia's lunchbox to plant sedatives in her food, aiming to weaken Miss Emily and get her removed from the kitchen. The plan went wrong when Miss Emily collapsed and fatally struck her head.
Wow.
Oh, she's there. All right. In the library, Miss Rachel was killed by TJ. He confronted Miss Rachel in the library to stop her from reporting the hacking incident. When Miss Rachel refused to keep quiet, TJ snapped and struck her in the head during a heated argument, knocking over a chair and pushing Rachel into the shelf. The impact caused a fatal head injury. TJ staged the scene to appear like an accident involving poison tea, hoping to deflect suspicion and buy time to cover his tracks. Okay, last but not least, in the makerspace. Mr. Nathan was killed by Sawyer. Sawyer returned during lunch, hoping to retrieve his project from a locked storage bin. A heated argument broke out when Mr. Nathan refused and threatened disciplinary action. Sawyer struck him with a nearby hammer in a sudden fit of rage. Realizing what had happened, he staged the scene to look like an accident and scattered sawdust from the exotic wood to confuse the timeline. He intended to frame Mr. Vincent or Lillian by smudging prints on the frame. You did it.
Good job, Sawyer.
Okay, so whoever suspected these murderers, give yourself a pat on the back. If you weren't suspicious of them, you might need to work a little more on your detective skills. Crime is complex, and solving individual crimes can be almost as difficult as solving the issue in our society. Even if we are neither criminals nor victims, crime impacts our values, routines, finances, and many other aspects of our daily lives as a society. Crime rates are influenced by a combination of cultural norms, systemic inequalities, and socioeconomic factors, as revealed by research in geographic profiling. This type of profiling relies on patterns of offender behavior rather than individual motivation. Geographic profiling is grounded in environmental criminology, which examines how spatial and situational factors influence criminal decisions. It is most effective in urban or densely populated areas where patterns emerge from repeated offenses. In rural areas, crime locations may be more spread out, making patterns harder to detect and profiles less precise due to lower population density and fewer data points. The heat hypothesis offers another explanation for geographical crime differences, proposing that warm temperatures contribute to increased aggression and violence. This theory is supported by the fact that the southern United States, which experiences warmer climates, has consistently higher rates of violent crime. While this field can be adapted across different cultures, it reflects some universal behavioral patterns, such as the tendency for offenders to commit crimes near their homes or in familiar surroundings. It must be noted that this supports the spatial logic that profiling depends on, but it is still a helpful tool in determining factors affecting crime rates. Economic inequality is perhaps the biggest influence on crime in our society. The correlation between socioeconomic status and the probability of committing a crime are unfortunately clear. Areas with greater income disparities often experience higher crime rates. Unemployment and job instability are associated with increased criminal behavior due to financial stress and reduced opportunities. In addition, a lack of economic opportunity is often accompanied by increased stress, which can lead to psychological issues that may increase the likelihood of criminal behavior. Educational attainment also plays a role. Lower levels of education are associated with higher crime rates, possibly due to limited employment prospects and reduced social mobility. The rational choice theory states that people make decisions by weighing the risks and benefits of different actions to maximize their experience or outcome. This process may vary by economic necessity or living conditions. Environmental factors such as abusive upbringing, neglect, or poverty can trigger or influence the expression of genetic traits linked to criminal behavior. Higher levels of religious involvement are often associated with lower crime rates, as faith-based communities can offer social support, moral guidance, and structured environments. However, this relationship can vary depending on the type of religious practice and the surrounding cultural context. Similarly, some research indicates that a possible connection between political beliefs and nonviolent criminal behavior, though this requires further investigation. In high-poverty urban areas, particularly among young Black male victims, homicides are solved less frequently than cases involving Caucasian victims in affluent rural regions. This discrepancy reflects the unequal access to justice that exists among different communities and demographics. Urban areas often face additional challenges in crime resolution due to factors such as resource limitations, a high concentration of alcohol and gambling establishments, and strained police to community relationships. These barriers hinder effective investigations and reduce community cooperation. Urban areas also present more target-rich environments due to population density and increased anonymity, which can influence offender decision-making. Rapid turnover in urban populations disrupts social cohesion and leads to weakened informal social controls. Additionally, poorly maintained urban neighborhoods with inadequate housing and limited resources often experience higher crime rates. These conditions collectively create environments where crime is more likely to occur and harder to resolve. Cultural differences in the use of space, views on public versus private boundaries, and attitudes towards law enforcement can also impact how criminal profiling and investigations are conducted. Local societal factors shape how gangs and criminal networks operate, emphasizing the importance of understanding regional differences in combating organized crime. Different racial and ethnic groups experience crime differently, shaped by cultural expectations and social realities. In some contexts, immigrants have lower crime rates than native-born individuals, while in others, the rates are higher. These differences often depend on a variety of factors, including how well immigrants are socially and economically integrated into the host society. Cultural influences can also shape regional crime patterns. The Southern culture of violence theory suggests that elevated crime rates in the southern United States today are rooted in Celtic cultural values that brought by early migrants and passed down through generations. This theory highlights how traditions and inherited values can influence long-term regional behavior. This perspective complements the heat hypothesis by tying both cultural and environmental factors to elevated regional crime levels. Meanwhile, cultural practices can sometimes discourage crime. In Turkey, although religiosity itself is not directly linked to lower crime rates, Islamic prohibitions on alcohol correlate with fewer alcohol-related crimes. Across Europe, crime rates also vary significantly, reflecting the complex interplay between culture, economic structures, and social systems. The institutional anomy theory, or IAT, explains differences in crime rates based on how cultures act economically and institutionally. According to the IAT, there are 4 fundamental cultural values responsible for elevated crime rates. First, achievement is determined by how culture views success and judges the value of a person. Second, individualism competes with others to succeed. Third, monetary fetishism uses money as the measurement of success rather than how they acquired the money. Lastly, universalism is the understanding of these values throughout society, regardless of wealth or status. As economic hardship and limited opportunities push individuals towards crime for survival, violent crimes may be more sensitive to shifts in cultural or economic pressures than property crimes, which may remain more stable. This distinction supports IAT's idea that crime reflects broader institutional imbalances and cultural values. This theory not only helps explain patterns of criminal behavior, but also sheds light on systemic challenges faced by marginalized populations. These outcomes mirror the cultural values emphasized in IAT, especially the lack of institutional support and the overwhelming focus on individuals' monetary success. IAT helps frame these examples as consequences of social systems that reward wealth but fail to support vulnerable groups in lawful, sustainable ways. Crime patterns shaped by social, economic, and cultural factors provide a crucial context for examining how societies respond to crime. Ideally, they respond by creating criminal justice systems that provide a structured framework through which crime is investigated, prosecuted, and punished, while also focusing on deterrence and rehabilitation. Punishment holds offenders responsible for their action. Deterrence discourages offenders and others from committing future crimes, and rehabilitation helps offenders improve themselves and rejoin society safely and effectively. As a former academic field, criminal justice emerged in the late 20th century, evolving alongside efforts to understand and control crime more effectively. Criminology, the scientific study of the non-legal aspects of crime, often overlaps with criminal justice. While criminology focuses on understanding criminal behavior, criminal justice focuses on the systems created to control crime. It includes the study of police, criminal courts, correctional institutions, and juvenile justice agencies. Federal law enforcement agencies investigate crimes that violate federal law. Different federal agencies are responsible for specific crimes. The FBI is in charge of handling terrorism threats and attacks, while the Secret Service investigates counterfeiting. Approaches to criminal justice vary worldwide. However, they are shaped by different legal traditions, cultural values, and societal priorities. In the U.S., after local police identify a crime, law enforcement proceeds with investigation and enforcement steps, including arrest and gathering evidence. They emphasize public safety, community engagement, and intelligence gathering. So if they suspect a crime has occurred, they might arrest the suspect either with or without an arrest warrant. In cases involving white-collar crimes, agents may need to get a search warrant or a subpoena to gather evidence. A subpoena is a summons ordering someone to appear in court. In addition to arrests and subpoenas, a suspect may face an indictment. An indictment is a formal accusation that a person has committed a crime, usually based on evidence gathered during the investigation. Sometimes, a grand jury is brought in to determine whether enough evidence exists to charge the suspect. Grand juries can subpoena evidence and compel witness testimony, ensuring that the process is thorough and fair. Throughout the investigation, victims' rights are considered, ensuring that the process is fair and transparent. Judicial processes include trial procedures, legal representation, and sentencing. Criminal law defines specific behaviors that are punishable by law. Courts determine whether the individual is guilty or innocent, and they uphold legal rights. A trial is held to determine the defendant's guilt or innocence, with the prosecution and defense presenting evidence. Plea bargaining allows for cases to be resolved without a trial. In a plea bargain, the defendant agrees to plead guilty in exchange for a benefit, such as reduced charges or sentence recommendations. In some cases, a jury is involved, but in others, the judge alone will determine the verdict. In jury trials, the process begins with voir dire, where potential jurors are selected and questioned to determine their suitability as jurors. After opening statements, both sides present evidence, and the jury deliberates to reach a verdict. If found guilty, the defendant moves to the sentencing stage, where a pre-sentence investigation is conducted. The pre-sentence investigation includes evaluating, aggravating, and mitigating factors, and considering the impact on the victim. The federal criminal justice system provides rights for victims, including the opportunity to attend hearings and make statements. Victims have the right to provide a victim's impact statement and submit documents for detailing financial losses as part of the sentencing process. The judge may sentence various penalties, including imprisonment, probation, or restitution, where the offender compensates the victim financially for the harm caused by the crime. After sentencing, offenders may appeal their conviction or sentence. Although the court reviews very few cases each year, offenders can petition the U.S. Supreme Court. Offenders also challenge their convictions or sentences through a habeas corpus petition, but such petitions are limited and unlikely to succeed in many cases. Corrections and rehabilitation focuses on incarceration, probation, parole, and programs that encourage rehabilitation. Such programs may include educational courses, vocational training, or substance abuse counseling aimed at reducing recidivism. Although the federal parole system was abolished for crimes committed after 1987, offenders convicted before that year may still be eligible for parole under earlier guidelines. Corrections and rehabilitation aim to punish, deter, and reintegrate offenders into society. Victims have the right to be notified of parole hearings and decisions regarding the offender's potential release. While victims cannot directly influence decisions, they can express their opinions through written submissions to the Justice Department. In conclusion, crime is not simply the result of individual decisions, but shaped by a complex relationship of genetic, societal, and environmental factors. By examining the individual characteristics of offenders and considering the broader societal influences like socioeconomic status, cultural norms, and systemic inequalities, we gain a deeper understanding of why crime emerges and how it persists. While the criminal justice system plays a crucial role in addressing and managing these factors through punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation, effective solutions must go beyond punishing individuals and take into account the structural and cultural forces that contribute to criminal behavior. By adopting a more integrated approach, we can better address the root causes of crime and work towards creating a more fair and ethical society. Shifting focus a little bit, I learned a lot from this project, and knowing that my outcomes reflect my effort makes me proud. I continued to develop and personalize my process. For instance, in the past years at VNS, I found that taking notes in a Google Doc was very helpful to me. In this project, I formatted the doc into a horizontal chart so I could easily separate each note into the subtopics that I had. I also continued to hone my writing process, ending with a solid 18-page research paper about crime and criminal justice. Finding life sources is a skill I will continue to work on, but I was able to secure an in-person interview with the Appleton Chief of Police, Polly Olson. I'm really grateful that she took the time to meet with me and share how she does her job, as well as her story. Overall, this project taught me that crime isn't just about laws, it's about people, decisions, systems, and how we all fit into it. And speaking of decisions, I plan to attend Carroll University in the fall. I don't know what I will major in yet, but I plan to help people and make a difference to at least someone. I want to thank my live source again for sitting down with me and answering my questions, as well as my family and friends for tolerating my complaining. I also want to thank Ms. K for meeting me where I'm at and being an amazing advisor over the past 6 years. I'm open to questions now if you have any. Isaac?
How long did it take you to set up the whole investigation stuff?
Isaac asked how long did it take me to set up my investigations or my product. I did that probably way earlier than I should have. I did it before all of the things I was supposed to be doing because it's more fun for me to make products. Maybe a couple days for the victim files and stuff, and then I just printed everything and had Miss R laminate it. I don't know. It didn't take that long. Abby? Abby asked why I picked this project. I like watching TV, and crime shows are cool, but it's also very interesting outside of it to learn about true crime. So, yeah. And then all the projects I've done have also taught me and pushed me towards doing this. So it was kind of the only option. Milo?
What was the hardest part about it?
Milo asked what the hardest part about this project was. Time management, I think. My mom's nodding her head. I tend to think I have more time than I actually do. So, yeah. It ended up fine though. Milo again.
What was the best part of the project as well?
The best part of the project. Oh, Milo asked what the best part of the project was. I do really like making products. I think creating all of that and buying stuff for it was so fun. Yeah. Max.
Do you have I want to say favorite, but a crime case you think about often?
Max asked my favorite crime case, to learn about. Not that it happened. The John Benet Ramsey case is pretty interesting to me. That's one that I watched tons of documentaries about. So I'll say that. Whatever. Annabeth?
What's your favorite crime show?
Annabeth asked what my favorite crime show was. Criminal Minds. I've seen it so many times. An unhealthy amount of times. Yeah. Isaac.
Advice for future seniors.
Isaac asked advice for future seniors. I don't remember what I said for my yearbook page, but time management is probably something that I'd say now. Just space out your goals and just like make sure that you know what you want to do and when you want to do it as well. Corbin?
You take inspiration from the crime scene at OBNS?
Like Isaac dying? Is that what you mean?
No.
No?
I made a project on the same thing.
Oh.
I made a crime scene in Makerspace.
Oh yeah, I do remember. Oh, did Corbin asked, did I take inspiration from another crime scene? Not really. Very sorry. Evelina?
What was your biggest takeaway from your live source?
Evelina asked what my biggest takeaway from my live source was. I think it wasn't like a specific piece of information, it was just like the way that she handled, like, carried herself as the chief of police. It was very interesting to hear about. She like explained her whole story to me about how she got to that job and the steps that she took to get to it as well. Pretty inspiring. Miss Lukey?
Can you look at all into how Appleton stacks up as far as being a crime drugs or crime-filled area?
Miss Lukey asked if I looked into like Appleton's role in being like a lesser crime area. That was something that I was going to do for one of my products, was like a timeline of Appleton's crime, but I didn't get around to it, so I didn't really like go into that, but it was a little bit of part of my research to find like the statistics for the stickers. Okay. Oh, Ms. Fornes?
So I am curious if there's anything we can do in our community at PNS to prevent, we don't really have a lot of crime, but maybe like be more proactive to encourage people to be positive community members based on your research. What advice do you have for us?
Ms. Fornes asked like if we can do anything to like help with crime or prevent it. I mentioned like a lot of my essay was about juvenile crime, so like just not peer pressuring people or just like not falling into bad habits surrounding peer pressuring would be helpful since we're like all teenagers. Yeah, I guess that's